Hello all, welcome back to Introduction to Wild Edible and Medicinal Plants. This will be part 5 and the final part in this intro series. With that being said, we'll probably do some more advanced series here in the future. As you can see, I have not solved my recording quality issues. Uh, that being said, we've been talking about edibles for the most part up till now. And the great question is, and I get it at all these classes, okay, now I know about all these plants, how do I use them? Well, how to prepare. That goes back to that method of preparation, the M and item, all right? And basically, when we're talking about edibles, there are really only two answers to that question. And that's going to be raw or cooked. And I have seen people on some of the survival shows below this particular question right here. I've seen people get sick from ingesting plants that were raw that should have been cooked, or ingesting too much of a plant raw uh, at one time. So, great, like I said, great question. How do I use it? And it's going to be raw or cooked as far as edibility goes. Uh, if we get into talking about cooking methods and raw plants and so on and so forth, or raw or the way to use plants raw, it's really too much for one series because it varies plant to plant. All right. Uh, some plants you can eat a little bit of raw, and if you eat too much of them raw, it'll give you problems. Some plants have to be cooked. Uh, some plants could be eaten raw, but it won't do you any good because you can't digest them. So basically, here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at each individual plant uh, on that basis. If we're talking about skunk cabbage always has to be cooked. Uh, there are many different ways to do that, and according to who you talk to, that's gonna change. That goes back to that generational knowledge thing that I talked about. Uh, and sometimes the lines are blurred between things. I suggest you get with someone who actually knows wild plants and have a little cookout, that kind of thing. Have them walk with you in the field and show you what you can do and what you can't do, and maybe actually prepare a couple of dishes. That's about all I can really say about that without actually standing next to you and showing you how to do it. Now we're going to get into the medicinal parts. And to be honest with you, there's a lot to be had with the medicinal parts and a lot to learn with the medicinal parts. But it's really just an expansion on the edibility. Uh, Let food be thy medicine. We attribute that quote to a few different people. Hippocrates is who it usually gets attributed to, but we don't really know. And there are variations on the quote. Nowadays, we just say, let your food be your medicine. And basically, what we're talking about here for our purposes is we're dealing with the very same plants as far as edibles and medicinals go. Basically, just how we're going to use them, how we're going to prepare them, and what parts of the plant we're going to use. Uh, Most of us come at this from a kind of outdoor skills and survival type background. So I'm basically going to talk about some preparations that you can do in the field. Uh, and that's really what we're going to talk about now and how we're going to close out the series. And it's basically just going to be an overview. This is not going to be anything in depth. Each one of these preparations could be several videos and could be several hours long easily. So, that being said, there are basically about 5 preps you can do in the field. 6 if you have the right material with you to do the 6th prep, but that's variable according to what your kit looks like when you go into the field. Our first preparation is going to be the most simple one. That's raw. That's taking the plant material directly from the plant and using it as it is. We're no preparation, none of that kind of thing. Think removing a piece of willow bark and using it over a cut for pain relieving properties and to seal up the cut. Same thing with a mullein leaf. We're going to take a mullein leaf off and use that big, nice, supple mullein leaf to cover up a wound. We can use that as a bandage. It's not going to do much other than cover the wound, but you're using that preparation raw. Next, we're going to talk about a poultice. A poultice is basically taking that plant material and grinding it up into a paste. And you can do that either by chewing it up. Think of the case of plantain leaves. You can chew that up and apply it directly to a bite or a sting or a rash or something like that. And we're going to chew those up and turn it into a paste. And that's a spit poultice, pretty name. Or another way to do the poultice is we're going to grind that up with a mortar and a pestle or a couple of rocks or whatever, or however you can do that in the field. And we're going to apply that to the wound or to the malady. Basically, let's think about this. Poultice, the plant material, is going to be in direct contact with whatever the problem is. A bite, an itchy spot, a sting, a cut that you're trying to control the bleeding at, or do pain relief. So your plant material is going to be in direct contact with that. Next, we're going to talk about a fomentation. Now, compresses and fomentations are kind of the same thing. With a compress, we're normally going to we're going to apply that warm or cold, and we're going to let it stay there until it, if it's warm, we're going to let it stay there until it gets cold. And if we're applying them cold, we're going to leave it there until it assumes room temperature. But that's not what we're talking about with a fomentation. A fomentation, now we're going to think here that the plant material is not going to be in direct contact with you. We're going to soak something in an infusion, and we probably should have talked about that first, but we'll talk about it next. Let's look at, we made an infusion out of some plant material that we needed to achieve a medicinal treatment, and we're going to apply a bandage into that infusion, and we're going to wring that out, and we're going to put that bandage on there. With a fomentation, we're applying the plant material to a bandage, usually through an infusion, and we're going to change that out. Fomentations are usually applied warm and left warm. So basically, when that starts to cool off a little bit, we're going to put another bandage on there right out of the warm fomentation, that kind of thing. So fomentation, plant material is in contact with bandages, not you, and we're going to usually apply those warm. Now, basically, we're talking in generalities here. There are other things to take into consideration, but these are the absolute basic of these 5 preps. All right, an infusion. Let's think about teas and washes. What we're going to do with an infusion, let's say we're using solvent as water. Okay, water is the universal solvent. We're almost always going to be talking about water unless we throw something else into the mix at this basic level. So we bring our water to a boil and we remove it from the heat. We put the plant material in the water and we cover that and let it steep. That is an infusion. We apply the heat to the water, we remove the water from the heat, and then apply the plant material. All right? Think iced tea, think coffee, that kind of thing. A decoction. Now, with a decoction, we're going to use that in the woody parts of the plant or the hard parts of the plant, like bark and roots and so on and so forth. A decoction, we're going to have a pot of water. All right. We're going to put the plant material in there, and we're going to bring all that to a boil. We're going to leave the heat on it, and we're going to let that water reduce until it's half the volume we started with. So we started with a full pot. Now we got a half a pot because the water boiled off. We're going to fill that back up with new water, add to it. So we've got a full pot again. We're going to let that reduce down again, all the time leaving the heat on. Okay, that is a decoction. And that's about as simple as it gets. All right, so homework. Go out and look those up. Don't get too deep into it yet. All right, just look at the absolute basic uses of those 5 preps. All right, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next series. Have a good day.